So just 3 weeks after the election that Labor claimed endorsed its green energy plans, up go your electricity bills again. It's just amazing. And the shameless thing today is that the Albanese government exploited these bad floods in New South Wales for political gain, blaming them on global warming and doing this on the same day of this big jump in electricity prices, up to nearly 10%. And putting the two together, I think, is not a coincidence. Let's take this one by one. These floods. The government today said again and again, oh, this is the global warming we're fighting.
The science told us they would be more frequent and they would be more intense. And that is precisely what tragically is playing out.
We all know that we're a country that does have these extremes, but climate change is absolutely exacerbating the frequency and the intensity of these events.
Well, we know that we have to deal with the challenge of climate change.
We're reminded as well of the need to look at the impact and cost of climate change, dealing with a cyclone off the coast of southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales just a short time ago, dealing with floods, but also dealing with drought in parts of South Australia, Victoria and Western Australia at the same time.
Now, listening to them, you would almost be convinced, they're so sincere, that the science really did tell us that global warming would mean more cyclones, more floods, more droughts. And floods and droughts at the same time in the same country, which is a bit odd. But anyway, yes, global warming, yeah, it's going to mean all those things. Cyclones, floods, droughts. And this apparently is why the government is making you pay a fortune to stop it, like with these power bills. Except for a start, Albanese is telling you porkies. The science doesn't say that. Well, not the science of the world's global warming Bible. The United Nations is the biggest pusher of this global warming scare, and its Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the UN's IPCC, publishes regular reports on the state of the science, or at least the science that leans its way. So, Albanese, you heard, tells you more cyclones, sign of global warming. But this IPCC says, well, no, the science tells us Australia's actually had fewer tropical cyclones since 1982, and most climate models predict we'll get even fewer. You also heard Albanese today tell you the climate science said global warming will give us more droughts. But the IPCC, the actual scientists in their 2021 report, say, well, actually there is in fact low confidence in us getting more droughts, low confidence in the emergence of drought frequency and observations for any type of drought in all regions. And you heard Albanese today tell you that the climate science tells us that global warming would give us more floods. But again, the real scientists at the IPCC say, well, actually, there's low confidence in even that, in the emergence of heavy precipitation, heavy rain, and pluvial and river flood frequency and observation. No confidence. Now, none of this is to say that we're not seeing, natural changes in weather patterns as we've seen so often in this country. I mean, you look at the rainfall in New South Wales that Albanese is talking about. It was in fact drier in the first half of last century, wetter in mid-century, and we've had a mixed bag since. But Labor is brilliant in telling you the big lie. Well, you saw that at the last election, didn't you? Lying that the 7 nuclear power stations promised by the Liberals would cost $600 billion. $600 billion. And that nuclear is too risky. And when you see these floods, and when you hear the really hysterical reporting in the media, oh, it's climate change, well, it's obviously going to be a pretty easy argument for Labor to win with people that don't look at the facts. But there's a real cost to these lies. And we saw it again today. These power prices. The increase when the Australian Energy Regulator announced its default market offers for electricity. That's a reference price for what the retailers can charge you. Now, of course, we've suddenly got to forget the government's promise 3 years ago that its green schemes would actually cut your bills.
Reducing power prices by $275, $275 a year, $275.
And as you know, your bills instead shot through the roof, and now they are going up yet again in southeast Queensland, up to 3.7%, depending on the region. South Australia up to 3.2%, but in New South Wales, up by as much as 9.7%. Small business customers who are standing offer plans will pay between 0.8% to 8.5%. And the Australian energy market operator last week warned it could get even worse, would you believe? And once again, this time it's because of the cost of stringing wires out to all these new wind and solar plants we're going to build who knows where, far away, all over the countryside. That cost has exploded by up to 55% in just 1 year. And guess who's going to be paying for that? We're going to be building 10,000 kilometres of new wire to hook them all up, according to the government. And that cost is now so high, the Australian Energy Market Operator says, whoops, we might have to now scrap some of the projects we thought should go ahead to keep down the costs. Or as it put it in bureaucrat talk the other day, the 2026 Integrated System Plan will revisit transmission network projects previously identified as needing to proceed, seeking to ensure that overall costs for consumers are optimised. In other words, this is going to cost us a monster, so let's start cutting the plans. So let me repeat. The government's global warming schemes are falling apart. They cost much more than you were promised. They are taking much longer than you were promised. And always remember that no matter what we do anyway, it will not make a difference to the climate. We are just too small. All that for nothing. So that is why the Albanese government today was lying. Look at the floods. Look at the drought. Look at the cyclone, actually non-cyclone Alfred, in March. It's all global warming. That's what we're trying to stop, they tell you. That stuff, all this awful stuff is why we are forcing this green power on you that costs so much. No, actually, the Prime Minister lied even about that bit today when he linked the floods to your bills.
We have a responsibility, in my view, not just to take action domestically, but to be a part of global action as well. Now, the transition that is occurring, we know the cheapest form of new energy is renewables.
Prime Minister, if renewables are so cheap, why are our bills rising yet again? I don't think it means what you say it means when you say they're cheaper. Here's what's really going on. This government needs voters to be frightened about global warming, because frightened people, they don't think straight and they don't ask the two basic questions with anything people are trying to sell you. Wait, what's this going to cost? Wait, what good will this actually do? And the answers here are plenty, cost you plenty, and does no good. You really are being conned.